Hi, this is Jim's Little Boat. I'm Jim, and I'm just down here at the marina finishing up the last little piece of replacing the halyards. We wanted to get rid of the old wire to rope halyards and replace it with Dyneema. And today I just need to finish stretching out the line and add the little caps. This is the connection between the wire part and the rope part of the main halyard. And this knot is particularly vexatious to me. It gets caught on things. It'll get caught on the mast light. Sometimes the wind will whip the halyard around and it'll get caught over the spreader or on the shroud, and it'll tie itself in a weird square knot. And really, what good is it to have everything led back to the cockpit if you have to go forward to straighten this out? So I'm seriously thinking maybe it's time for Dyneema halyards. I'll get back to you. I gave it some thought, and I am going to go ahead and change the halyards to the Dyneema one-piece line, get rid of the knot. One of the things I had to do was change the sheaves. I got the kit from Catalina direct, and they send you 4 of them. You just pop this 1/4-inch pin out, goes through a hole in each sheave, and then there's this divider plate. It's got a hole in the forward part, and the aft part just sits on top of the axle. So it's really no big deal to change. I haven't taken out the wire yet. I'm waiting for my friend Tony to come over and help me thread it all. And of course, it's a lot easier to do this while the mast is down. So I'm kind of thinking we'll get the rope ready and we'll be ready to go. Just a tip, if you take a file or a grinder or sandpaper and put the tiniest bit of taper on the pin that is the axle, it will sure make installation easier. My goal was to get rid of the knot that connects the rope halyard to the wire halyard. And by going to this Dyneema line, we got rid of that knot, so it shouldn't hang up there anymore. And I thought, well, we could probably make that a little more slick. So instead of tying a knot down here where the halyard meets the shackle, I was going to do a splice. I called the folks at Catalina Direct, and they said, well, that's really not going to work because the splice will end up being about 10 or 12 inches long, and it won't ride over the sheave, so that won't work. So I came up with a new idea. If you look at this very closely, I sewed a splice in the Dyneema line. Now, according to the guys online, a sewn splice is 90% of the strength of the rope, which is plenty. Makes a nice clean entry there. And then I tapered the line and sewed it. And on the sewing, I added a shrink fit. So hopefully that will make the whole thing cleaner. Oh, and then I added a washer, which I believe will keep it from going up into the sheave and getting stuck. So it's a lot of work, but the halyard needed to be replaced anyway. And I'm kind of anxious to get out back in the water, which is only 160 days away, and try this whole thing out. The core and the cover melt at different temperatures, so you can't just cut it and fuse it. You need to put one of these little plastic, I think they call them widgets or gizmos or something, to end the line. So I'm just going to cut it. I couldn't cut it before today because I had to make the line stretch first. So we've been sailing 3 times and a couple times, quite a bit of wind. So I'm ready to go ahead and cut off the extra tail here on the line, probably about 3 or 4 feet. This happens to be the main halyard. I got lucky today, guys. I cut a foot too much off of the jib halyard, and luckily I had enough slack that it still goes all the way out and hooks to the jib when it's laying on the deck. So if you do this, be careful and remember that that's one of the advantages you got by changing over to this line. And here's an advantage I hadn't even thought about. The jib halyard comes all the way down and actually hooks to my jib pendant. So I don't have to go forward if I don't want to attach the jib halyard. It could already be there. The knot between the wire and rope no longer gets caught on that light when I'm trying to hoist the sail. And in addition, that knot never gets wrapped around the spreader, so you can't get it undone. And so far, it hasn't wrapped around any of the stays where it's been a problem. The sewn splices at the end of the halyard work great. They don't get caught up in the sheaves because they're nice and short, and that's a big help. There are some other advantages to rope halyards that I hadn't thought about. They don't clang on the mast. They don't wear the mast. And of course, if you're going to change the jib halyard, you might as well put new turning blocks on down at the bottom. The old ones were really not in the right place and they really didn't spin very freely. And of course, that led to I had to relocate the turning blocks here, and they didn't spin very well either. So the result now is that the halyard goes up so easy, I can't hardly believe it. Well, that's the changeover to the Dyneema halyards. Get rid of the wire and the rope, and especially the knot. And it's not cheap, but for me, one of the big joys of sailing is eliminating all those little irksome details that annoy you when you're out on the water. Hey, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you out in the water just about any day.